And one of the challenges that people face when they have anxiety are just rumination, looping thoughts, just going, that's personally something that used to haunt me. Now I have more control over it now that I have a whole toolbox, of things that I use when I find myself going down that rabbit hole. But thinking about the worst case scenario, as you described in the future type of anxiety, where we're sitting in bed and we just can't seem to control our racing thoughts, and we just go on and on and on. We keep replaying this worst case scenarios in our mind. People get stuck in all kinds of spirals that they can't seem to climb out of. Elizabeth, why do these loops feel so hard for some people? Why is it almost addictive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, just like going back to those neural pathways, it's easy. And we end up, I mean, no matter how destructive these pathways are, no matter how unhappy they make us, we know the end result, right? Like we go back to that bag of chips because we know what it's going to feel like to eat them. We go back to the job that we hate because we know what to expect. It comes down to our greatest fear as human beings, which is the fear of the unknown.
Mm.
We would rather do something that does not serve us, and we know it. Most of us don't fully know it doesn't serve us. But we would rather do that than to go out on a limb and do something completely different. So one of the things that I put in my book to stop the looping, to stop the repeated patterns, to stop walking the same neural pathways over and over again, just because it's easy, just because it's comfortable, right? Is to purposefully, consciously get uncomfortable. So there's like two sort of things that I recommend, and I recommend other things as well. But one of them is to make random choices throughout your day. And I'm talking about like super random choices. I remember writing this portion of this chapter, and as I was writing it, I was chewing gum, and randomly I took the gum out of my mouth and I just stuck it to the back of my hand. I mean, I would never do that. I wrote that in the book. I'm like, as I'm writing this, I'm taking my gum out and I'm putting it on the back of my. There's no reason to do that. But guess what? By doing a thing I've never done in my entire life, I am starting and creating a brand new neural pathway. I am moving, consciously choosing a new path to move the energy in my brain. I'm reprogramming my brain by doing something completely random, right? Now, that's an easy example. Every once in a while, I'll take something on my desk. It could be a bottle of cream or maybe a pen or a crystal, and I'll just like chuck it across the room. I just so random, but like, hey, you know what? The other part of me, through comfortability, through looping, through neural pathways, through knowing what to expect, I would have never done that. Why would I do that? That's ridiculous. There's no means to an end there. But guess what? The means to an end is to open up a new neural pathway, to walk a different path, to tell my brain and tell my body in that moment that I'm safe to make new choices, right? And so the other thing that I recommend for people too is to purposefully get uncomfortable. And that could be making a new choice, right? Like you go to a restaurant, you're like, I always get the chicken wrap. Okay, fantastic. Get something else. Like make a conscious choice to get something else. You could hate it, right? But get it anyway. And then at least you know, right? It doesn't always have to be a good experience. And that's why we go back to choosing the same things, because it's comfortable and you know what to expect. The other thing that you can make you purposefully uncomfortable in a safe way is cold showers. So I also recommend this. Cold showers not only has been proven to decrease anxiety and increase sort of nerve function and cellular growth and things like that, but it's also purposefully getting uncomfortable. It is telling your body, hey, we're not going to like this, okay? But we're going to be okay. We're going to be safe. I'm going to do something uncomfortable and I'm going to get through to the other side and I'm going to be just fine. And by doing those things and showing up and being okay with being uncomfortable, being okay with making new choices and creating new neural pathways, we end the looping and we start to become conscious, present moment participants of our reality.
I love that. So building enough evidence to convince yourself that you are capable of changing and doing things differently.
Bingo. those small choices lead to bigger choices like, am I happy in my job? Am I happy in my living situation? Am I happy with
It opens the
myself?
door for the bigger things.
It does. It
Yeah,
does.
that's great. Have you seen the movie Inside Out too?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so they have a character called Anxiety there, and I just thought it would be interesting to speak to you about it and if you like the way she was portrayed in it. And yeah, but I guess if you haven't seen it, then we can't get into that. But yeah, definitely, I mean, catch that movie because
I,
they have portrayed that character in a very interesting way.
mm,
And it's again, it was able to they were able to give a very, very different take on the feeling of anxiety and how it interacts with all the other emotions and how all the other emotions play a pivotal role kind of managing
mm,
that part of ourselves. So, what I find very unique and distinctive about your work, Elizabeth, is that you bridge psychology and intuition and energy in a way that feels expansive rather than polarizing. For those who have only understood anxiety through the lens of clinical language, how do you help them open up to a more multidimensional view without dismissing the science?
yeah, for sure. Good question. So I'm always an Eastern meets Western girl. Like I'm always black and white. It's not one or the other. It's not left or right. It's both. And so in so many ways, my work across the board is to be a bridge between different theories, different modalities, spirituality and science. Like I love it. Both are so valid, but I believe truly when it comes to anxiety, there isn't one or the other that can fully explain anxiety. But when we put together both of them, because psychology is really sort of the study of the brain and the cognition and how we think and how we respond and how that system works. But if the true sort of initiator of anxiety comes down to an energetic alert system, then all we can ever study within psychology is how our brain, how our mind, and how our behavior is reacting to that alert. But if we're not studying and understanding the alert itself, then we're missing a huge piece of what exactly anxiety is. And not only that, but what it can actually do for us. I mean, I reframe it as one of our greatest superpowers, one of our biggest
Spidey
messengers.
sense. That's what you call
Yeah,
it.
it's a Spidey sense. I mean,
Yeah.
I go back to the Spider-Man movies, right? It's like right before a bad guy is about to bust through the wall, he gets his little head thing, his
Yeah,
his
the
Spidey sense
squiggly
kicks
line.
on. Yeah,
That's
the
what,
squiggly lines,
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
In the cartoons, that's how
And
it was shown. Yeah.
and and the problem with humans is that we get the little squiggly lines, the alarm bell goes off, we feel uncomfortable, and we immediately recognize that discomfort as something bad, something's wrong. And then all of your systems react to, uh-oh, something is wrong. And then we try and shove it down or distract or dissociate from it because we don't want to feel that way, you know? And then eventually there's like 20 alarm bells going off, and we finally have to listen because you're like, I can't function. I can't do anything in life because all my alarm bells are going off, and I have to actually now show up and pay attention and figure this out, right? Like you're kind of forced into it eventually if you don't listen. And so in my book, like just like exposure therapy, I sort of take both of these modalities, both more of a physical, scientific lens and a spiritual lens. I utilize my own language behind it so that I'm not triggering anyone from one to the other, and I'm combining them both into a very new way of perceiving it and looking at it, a new ideology, a new solution. And I think that people who are coming from that traditional psychological lens, they're going to pick up my book and they're going to listen to this interview and they're going to be curious about it because what they've been doing hasn't worked. And that is what led me to writing this book. If I felt like personally as an anxiety sufferer that something out there was working, that something could answer all my questions, then I wouldn't be writing this book. And so I do think that this is going to hit on that group of people as well and really open their minds up to these subtle energetic interplays in our life that are actually becoming more and more apparent, and we have to start the conversation around them.
Mm. Where do you personally see science and spirituality align most clearly, especially when it comes to anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, in general, beyond anxiety, like quantum mechanics, I truly believe is the answer to everything.
Say more.
Quantum mechanics is it is the study of energy, really, and those energetic interactions at the tiniest level. And everything that's a microcosm is a macrocosm. Everything's mirrored and aligned in this universe. And so, in my own study, whatever that study may be, quantum mechanics is the science behind spirituality. Um, when it comes to anxiety, I think the merging point um, is understanding both sides and that they work together. Like I don't think that there's like both sides come together as one thing. I think it's like this is that side. This is how we can change our behavior. This is how we can work with neuroplasticity, which is
Hmm.
a scientific understanding of how our brains work and how our brains can change. And if we apply more of an energetic understanding to that, then it's time to really grow and expand beyond just being stuck in the cognitive behavior. So it's kind of both combined rather than just one thing that merge both together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's taking an all-encompassing approach. So taking care of the body, the nervous system, the physiology, and at the same time, looking at what it looks like on a cognitive level and on a meta level. What is happening, from a spiritual perspective? Why am I having these feelings? What does it mean when it comes to my life path? What is it pointing to? So having that higher perspective gives meaning to whatever
Yep.
you're going through.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's huge.